Hello, Symren. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you, John. How are you?
I'm good. I'm quite curious. Like you're surrounded by all sorts of paraphernalia and books, and I want to know how they link up to the song that we're going to talk about, which I have links for here, and there are also various different notes for me, so I can make sure I give your song justice.
Yeah,
Ballad of
sure.
Markland Estate. Firstly, Markland Estate. I've never been there. You're going to have to tell me more about it and what you know of it in terms of your life.
Um, that's where I grew up in West London. It's a tower block, just Latimer Road, like W10, kind of just near Ladbroke Grove. It really, my parents still live there, and my sister still lives there. It's a really kind of amazing community of people around there, and I think um, when Grenfell happened 3 years ago, I just moved out of the area actually, and I, I felt really, really, really sad about it. And I remember going to the area and seeing, missing people's, faces up on as posters and stuff, and kind of recognising the people who are missing. And it was one of those areas, and that estate, people have just been there for so long, and it's really friendly and everyone knows each other, and there's a real kind of strong sense of community. It's just where I grew up, and I guess it's where my kind of story partially begins. And the record, the album being, a story of my life, things I went through, it kind of made sense to have a song about it, and the video shot there. Video I shot with Steve Gullick is shot there, and I also kind of I have to be very careful about how I mention things, and the way I mention things, and my motive is always kind of is always good and try to mention things, but I wanted to raise awareness, or keep the awareness going around Grenfell. I don't want the 72 people who died there, to be forgotten. I think it's important that, that justice is done, and that some kind of accountability for, whose fault that was, is kind of reached. And families are still unhoused. They're still cladding on buildings. There's no justice has been done. And I remember growing up as a kid, the Hillsborough disaster, and how, in 1989, and at a very young age, kind of being faced with this kind of idea that we're just being lied to, and this is a constant stream of lies. And, the lies and deception and covering up that went on in the police force then, and to this day, there's still no full accountability, there's still no justice that's been done. And those families, not only have they lost loved ones, but they've been campaigning for so long now, and I just, it saddens me as well. I don't want to get too into comparing two things, but I remember when that happened in 1989, and I kind of feel like with Grenfell, like there just seems to be like this feeling that it's getting forgotten again, and it's all going to get brushed under the carpet, and no one really wants to take accountability for the fact that 72 people burnt to death, and people's lives were up completely turned upside down. I mean, I know that the TMO, my parents live in a block kind of very, very nearby, virtually next door, and they've had this leak in there for years, absolutely years, and they've tried to get it sorted out, and it's not the same as a fire. I'm not saying that, I just mean the attitude's the same, that they were like, well, you live in a council flat, so what do you expect to happen? And it's just this kind of feeling that because the people who live there are kind of poor, or seemingly poor, and a lot of them people of colour, it feels like they've been forgotten, and justice hasn't been done, and it doesn't feel like it's going that way with all the cover up. So yeah, I wrote the song to try and keep awareness going around Grenfell, to talk about my life, the origin of where it started. You know, the song is about that. It's about growing up as a, you know, as a Sikh, a turban-wearing Sikh, the only person around there, the only person at school. You know, really kind of wanting to die, being kind of very suicidal at a very young age. You know, and I know suicide kills more men than anything else. You know, and that's like a shocking statistic, a shocking idea. You know. It shocks me that I felt like that at such a young age. You know, thankfully, you know, I'm grateful I don't feel like that anymore. But yeah, like feeling deep shame around my origins, where I was from, you know, and then it talks about cutting my hair when I was 15, and that being a really pivotal moment in my life. And you know, it was kind of dark, and it felt I was doing something really wrong, and it felt like you know, I'd kind of gone over the edge, never to return. But it also felt really magical, because I felt like that's what I wanted at the time. Was I wanted to be British, I wanted to feel British, I wanted to be English. You know, you know, I had all these ideas about bleaching my skin and trying to do that, and like and then cutting my hair, and then at 15 I started wearing loads of makeup, you know, eyeliner, lipstick, you know, and part of it was kind of, I got really into rock and roll and music and bands, and, you know, the kind of tribal aspect of that. But it was also, I just wanted to cover up how I looked.
Sure. There's quite a few things that we can talk about in regards to the song, but what I really want to touch upon in regards to who you are now and what you're having to present, do you feel that you, to an extent like myself, because we've both been through this weird system in rock and roll, we thought we had to sublimate parts of our culture in order to be maybe seen or validated? Do you feel that now that there's more of an opportunity now for us to show those things, that there's a danger of overcompensating with that? Do you feel in any way that that's an issue?
So could you repeat the question, John? So I was slightly distracted because this thing came up on my screen, this pop-up.
Okay. Essentially, for some time, you, like myself, have been within a system that seemed to congratulate those who were part of more of a mainstream culture, in terms of them being Caucasian and all the different values that seem to be attributed to that culture. So now that we don't have to be reductionist about who we are, Sim, do you feel there's a danger that in our newfound ability, or in our mutual soapboxes, that we may sometimes overcompensate for that time? Do you think that's a danger, or am I just overthinking things again? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. Do you mean overcompensating for like the neurosis and the paranoia about the color of my skin?
That to an extent plays into it. I think, not to bring myself into it, because my job here is to ask you about who you are, but we can't avoid our very similar traction together. Yeah. Essentially, you have had time off from, a better way of saying it, you've had time not to really address certain issues because you didn't think people would fucking listen, right? But now we're in a point where when you say these things, people are actively engaged. Is there a danger in us saying this stuff because we feel that we've got so much time to make up for? Is that a negative? Is that a danger? You follow me on this.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, I know. I totally understand what you're saying now. I absolutely not. I think the more dialogue, the more stories that are shared, the more valuable experience that's kind of, yeah, shared amongst us fellow human beings, the better. I don't think we can talk about it enough. I think the persecution of minorities, of people of colour, has been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries. You know, whether it be in society, police brutality, in homes, in schools, you know, wherever. It's like, it's this tragic thing where people are born as a human being, and suddenly, you know, within a few years of being alive, because of racism in society, because of the systemic racism in this country, they feel like they're somehow kind of, you know, weird or not right or not human. And that's an absolutely horrendous way to feel, you know, as a child, to feel like that. You know, when your idea of being a child is like purity and playing with friends and and you know, and I don't want to kind of say that it's just people of colour who have difficult childhoods who are experiencing it.
No one's going to think that you're saying that, man.
Or that, you know, this is somehow that, you know, we're the only people who are victims in this world at all, you know. But I think it can't be spoken about enough, and I think it needs to be challenged. I think, you know, you've got two of the most powerful people in the world who are kind of openly racist, openly anti-people of colour. I mean, it has to be challenged, and the only way, I believe, you know, is more dialogue, more of us talking about it, more protest about it, education in schools. You know, I don't think, absolutely not. You know, and I don't feel like I'm overcompensating for times gone. I feel like I just don't want anyone to really feel how I felt, you know. And so I feel like it was an important story to tell. It was a life saving story to tell, you know. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, very succinct. There is an aesthetic to the song which lends itself very well to one of the artists that I know you've worked with before, Shim from The Junk. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about your relationship with him in regards to this song?
I think when you want a singer in Britain who sounds like Iggy Pop, Shim's your man. To put it simply, I think he's an incredible vocalist. He's a multi-instrumentalist, you know. He's capable of doing lots of different things, lots of different styles, you know. And I wanted somebody to do, in the verse, to do a really low, deep kind of Iggy, Fat White type kind of vocal, and yeah, he was the man to do it, you know. And he's a lovely man, and, you know, I love hanging out with him, and, you know, it's really great. It's I appreciate it, you know, that some of the stuff is quite uncomfortable, you know. So it's about, the song is about the stuff that and it's very personal to me. So obviously as a singer, it's great that, you know, he was up for singing the words. You know, he wrote the vocal melody, but singing the words, and you know, it talks about the things that I mentioned, but it also talks about, you know, which is a thread running through the record, is kind of, you know, how colonialism, in British colonialism, and specifically really for me, colonialism in India, has impacted modern Britain. And so you have references to the Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in 1919, you know, which were kind of two pivotal moments in the British rule of India. And then you've got a chorus bit as well, which is sung by a girl called Bess Cavendish. You know, that's because it talks about, from when I cut my hair, you know, and I became a different person. It talks about then my kind of voyage into kind of drinking and drug addiction. And I, you know, towards later years, I became a heroin and crack cocaine addict and alcoholic, and it kind of talks about a lot of the characters in the area, you know, because the record is set in the area, so kind of each song is a kind of, has that kind of setting kind of in mind, that's the backdrop. And so, you know, and the Clash did it a lot, you know, their whole setting was kind of West London, but then they kind of talked about various historical events and wars and battles and political and socio-political things that were really important to them. So it's kind of inspired by that. But yeah, you know, there was a load of people I hung out with around there who were in a lot of trouble, you know, and I was trying to kind of, you know, dispel this idea of addiction being kind of, you know, the fault of the individual, that it's this kind of choice of the person that, you know, or they're just choosing to be like that. It's not the truth, you know. And I think more and more dialogue needs to happen around addiction being an illness,
definitely,
you know, like any other illness, you know, and that they're still beautiful human beings, you know, but they're lost in this illness. And so that's kind of what the chorus bit talks about.
Yeah. Very well done. Just because there's a certain amount of time that we can devote to this song, I want to know what brief you gave to Steve Gullick for the video, because it's very gritty, very powerful. But what kind of dialogue did you guys have before shooting? It's really cool.
I mean, I love Steve so much, and collaborating with him on the videos is just always so much fun. And I explained to him the story behind the song, and he really liked the song. And I said, well, I'd kind of got married in Sri Lanka last year, and I'd sent him this girl called Hardeep, like really nice girl that had choreographed. It's a friend of my wife's had choreographed our kind of first dance, and it was really intricate. She's like a proper dancer and stuff, and and she's a Sikh girl, and I wanted to, and I showed Steve. I sent Steve the video of the dance, because we did it really badly, but it was cool, and I'll have to send it to you actually. And Steve said, "Oh, we should get that in the next video." And so then I asked Hardeep to come and dance in the video. It was a kind of a reference to India, to kind of colonialism and to the traditional dance, and just bringing that into it really. And so you've got her in there, and I said that the story's about Markland house, so we need to go and shoot it there. So we went into my parents' house and flat, and we shot bits in there, and then we went under the West Way and shot stuff around there. And as I said before, the Clash are like my favourite band, and and I felt like I really wanted the video to be shot in West London under the West Way. That's kind of their territory really. But I don't know anyone who's shot a video around there since, so that felt like the right thing to do. So yeah, we just shot around there, and it's great to kind of, I had my parents in one of the videos before, and it was great to just like, to be in the flat and to invite Shim and Steve there, because for so many years I had so much shame around, where I was from, and kind of, my family being Indian, and then, living in a council flat and all of that stuff. And it was like when people used to say, "Oh, can we go to your flat?" And like, we never had anything in it. And I always felt like really like ashamed of it, and it was just really great to not feel that. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go there, and it didn't cross my mind. And it's that. So it was really nice. It was really nice. And Steve's met my parents as well, actually, because as I said, they were in the video before.
Yeah,
so.
wow. And it's a great performance. It's so good to hear that you can allow who you are to be part of your musical expression, and not streamline that or edit it out because it doesn't fit the narrative of stuff which has influenced you. You'll watch a biopic by whatever band, even like the Clash, and it's like, where do I fit in this tapestry? Yeah. Where is my place in this story? Am I just going to be a face in the crowd when I know I've got something that might be valuable up on the stage? So it's so good to see that you're living that outside of the actual promotional side of things. It's just within your actual structural life. It's something that you won't, consider in a negative way. It's great. I want to ask, where can people get the song? And if you can, this is your moment to actually now promote where people can buy it, I think.
Well, it's up on Spotify, Primitive Ignorance Spotify. It's up on Bandcamp. The video is up on YouTube. And the album is going to be out in October. No live shows at the moment for obvious reasons, but yeah, it's available there. But just going back to what you were saying about, I think when I was making the record, that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be literally a raw version of myself, every single bit of kind of, because we're all eternally flawed, and we all have things we're ashamed of, and things we've been dishonest about, things that we've run from, and things that things that we feel proud of. And I just wanted to bring it all together and go, well, this is me, and by sharing experience, you know, that maybe it might bring some kind of unity or some kind of harmony to somebody for maybe even like 5 minutes or something, and that's for me a job well done, you know.
Yeah, it definitely comes across. I mean, ultimately, in a perfect world, you could take time off, extreme amounts of time off, and work out all these things and put music on hold. But you are who you are. You want to make music, and you want to discuss how you are taking in the reality that we're in. And so to actually, you know, to be brave enough and to explore that in public, I think it says so much about you. So well done for that. I think there's tons more to say, and we will move on to other songs momentarily. But for now, in this video, I think we're done. Thank you for your time, Sim.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you very much.
No worries. Take care.